So this is love. So this is love. Hello everyone, I'm Natasha and happy Valentine's Day! Actually, it's that day for me. It's Single Awareness Day. I've been wanting to talk about my favorite romantic stories for such a long time, and this is the perfect month to do it because it's the month of love. These aren't the cute little contemporaries that I was used to in high school. No, these have some steamy, sultry scenes in them. When I was younger and I started reading books for the first time, aka Twilight, I only wanted to read books about romance, and if they didn't have romance in them, then I wasn't going to read them. Now that I've gotten older, I've experienced books without romance and they are just as good. But that means I have read my fair share of romantic stories. Now, I don't go searching for these novels with the naughty scenes in them, okay? Sex scenes, let's just put it out there. I just happened to stumble upon them in my quest to find something easy and fun to read. Usually these books are kind of addictive. New adult is a new category that has all the raunchy things in it, and then you've got your regular adult romance, and then sometimes YA. There's lots of controversy surrounding romance stories, especially 50 Shades of Grey. And for all you youngins out there who are reading this stuff, I just advise you that some of these relationships are not examples of healthy consensual relationships, okay? You can read it, you can fantasize, but do not go looking for that type of relationship, okay? Now that that's out of the way, my disclaimer, let's get into fun stuff. I'm gonna share some trashy stories with you guys. You're gonna read them in the night and you're gonna thank me. Another disclaimer, I only have heterosexual stories in my list today and I apologize for that. First, let's start with some non-trashy stories. These are books that I hold in higher regard than just Harlequin romances. Actually, I don't think I've ever read a Harlequin romance. I should get on that. Share with you is Accord Mist and Fury, my #1 favorite read of 2016. Y'all know about this one. This is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. ACOWAR is coming out this year. I'm so excited, but this was heaven. This is a fantasy novel. I love the male protagonist, Rhysand. We all love him. I mean, I have a pillow of him. I'm in my mom's room, so he's not behind me today. I did not read the Throne of Glass series. I read the first one, but I heard that there are some sexy times in the later books, but I got a good taste of it in this one. If you haven't picked it up already, do yourself a favor and do it. Next is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I love this one just so much. This is probably one of my all-time favorite books ever. Outlander is in an 8-book series. I've read the first 3 and I don't think I'm going to continue. I might read the 4th one just to see, you know, when the TV show comes along. But this one is just the beginning of Jamie and Claire. The characters age so much and it's not really that fun anymore. If the 8-book series is daunting, don't worry about it. Just read the first one and you'll thank me again. And there's a lot of good sexy times, not to mention like Jamie Fraser is just like, This is a YA. This is The Wrath of Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I talk about this one a lot too. I was so surprised by this and how much I loved it, and the chemistry between the two characters, everything is just written so beautifully. It's another one of my favorite tropes where the male protagonist is kind of scary and you don't really know what's up with him. Like, you already have these preconceived notions about him, but he turns out to be on the good side. This is kind of like a fantasy, historical fiction type of novel. All books will be linked down below if you want to get yourself a copy in time for Valentine's Day or just, you know, whenever. This is another fantasy read, urban fantasy. This is Dark Fever by Karen Manning. I hauled these years ago. I have 6 of them and I've read the first 3. I actually read them in the beginning of the year last year. The 3rd one went a little bit farther than I could handle as far as like sexual situations. The male protagonist is an older guy. He's quite the butthead. He's also holding back secrets from her. You kind of ship it, but you kind of don't, not for a few books. Now that I've had a nice long break from the ending of the 3rd one, I think I will pick up the 4th one. This one is really fun. It's about fairies and it's set in Ireland. I always thought these types of books weren't good, but they are. They're just wrapped up in the wrong packaging. This next section of books I like to call Twilight fan fiction. So These are all stories that were previously Twilight fanfiction. I actually read them when they were on fanfiction.net, and now they are published novels. I like the Twilight fanfiction better. It was just so nostalgic for me, and it's what got me into like romantic reading. I still read fanfiction, not Twilight fanfiction anymore, because it's accessible and I know those characters, and it's a way for me to continue on the story that's already been told. The Twilight fanfiction was a jumping off point for so many authors, obviously L. James. I actually never read that one. I read the first 3 chapters of Master of the Universe, which it was previously called before they published it at 50 Shades of Grey, but I was bored. Yeah, the movies are a different story. I like those. Again, not a healthy example of a consensual relationship. But the one that I own physically is Sempre by J.M. Darhauer. This was my favorite fan fiction when I was in high school. It was called Emancipation Proclamation. It's been edited down a whole lot. I think it's 3 books. I only had the first 2. It was huge, and it was just my guilty pleasure. I was there for every single chapter update, and so I had to buy the physical copy and support JM. This is new adult, or is it adult? The main character is in high school. This one's super angsty. Emancipation Proclamation was like the definition of angsty fanfic. There's not much funny stuff going on. It's just kind of serious. Obviously there's a gun, so it has to do with the mafia. The main protagonist, which was Edward, it's a different character now. He was just a butthead. I love butthead man characters in novels. That's my favorite trope ever. I love it when they hate each other. Both protagonists just absolutely hate each other, and then that hate turns to love. It's so good. It just makes things a little bit harder, and you get to see kind of the worst side of people first, and then you get to see the best side of people. That's my favorite trope of all time, when the 2 characters hate each other. It's a lot of fun to see them work through their differences. The next Twilight fanfiction I don't own, but it is Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lord, and yeah, this was another one of my favorite fanfictions when it was on fanfiction.net. Actually, it was on twilighted.net. This one was definitely a lot more fun. Another one of the hate love things. You can buy the whole series. I've seen them at Target. I would like to read it again. Sometimes it's hard for me to reread these fanfiction stories without seeing the actors from the Twilight saga. But Beautiful Bastard is about a CEO and his assistant. He is just a bastard. That's why it's called Beautiful Bastard. Next, another Twilight fanfiction, which is called Wallbanger. I read this one as a fanfiction as well. You can also get this one at Target. It's also a series. It's definitely a lot more snarky and witty than the last 2 I just mentioned. Another one, it's called Losing It by Cor Carmack. It's not a fan fiction, but what happened with this one is that someone had stolen her original story and made it a Twilight fan fiction. I read that fan fiction before I read her novel. When I was reading her novel, I'm like, this sounds a lot like a fan fiction I had read. But Losing It is a lot of fun as well. Definitely more on the lighter side. Not as much angsty stuff happening. I read this one a while ago, so I can't remember all the details, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite story, but it was something that I enjoyed. It took up my time and it was entertaining. I read a lot of my stories on my phone, and so I have like Google Books and a Kindle app, Apple Books. It's by Abby Glines. It's called Fallen Too Far. There's 3 books in this series, and they were highly addictive. I just went through them so quickly. I don't think they're Twilight fan fiction. Started off the love-hate relationship that I love. When it comes to those love-hate relationships, usually one side of the relationship you feel so bad for, and you just want the other person to apologize, and then it happens, and it's just so satisfying. This one is a little bit on the graphic side when it comes to the sexy times. It was a nice arc, and it definitely kept me entertained for a long time. Another series that builds off each other is Wait For It by Jennifer L. Armentrout. She's writing as Jalen. It's her new adult series. There's no fantasy in it. It's just like completely contemporary romance, and it's all set during people's college years. Characters in the first story and second story are given their own books, and so they build off of one another, and you get to see the characters from like the previous novels and the later novels. A lot of these are just sweet, fun romances. They do have a lot of angst. I think a lot of the characters have some deep, dark secret about them that they have to work through to get with the other person, or they have to work together with the other person to be with, so there's a lot of that tension there. I read The Marriage Bargain by Jennifer Props. I know she's written a YA novel as well, but this is her adult romance. It's another series that builds off of one another. Each book focuses on a relationship. In this series in particular, somebody is very rich. In The Marriage Bargain, the guy has to get married married to somebody or else he's gonna lose his like $1 million inheritance. That's another trope that I'm just crazy about. Someone has to get married to someone. Like The Proposal, I love that movie. Two people are thrown into a situation that they don't really want to be in, and then they grow closer to each other. That's what the marriage bargain is. A lot of it was suspended disbelief, where situations would happen and you'd be like, okay, sure, that would happen in real life. Recently, I read Tangled by Emma Chase because Colleen Hoover recommended her novel on Instagram. A lot of shenanigans going on in the office. The son of the CEO who founded this law firm needs to secure his spot in the company. He's like this bachelor who sleeps with so many different women. One night at a bar, he meets this beautiful brunette. She gives him a cold shoulder and he's like, oh, fine, I'll find somebody else. And then so happens that she is the new recruit at the law firm and they have to go head to head to get the job. There's a lot of tension in this one. Lots of like funny happenstances. Back to physical novels. I have Sophie Kinsella. She is my favorite women's fiction writer. I haven't read the Shopaholic series, but I've read her other standalone. Can You Keep a Secret is my favorite. And then there's The Undomestic Goddess. This is more on the physical, like steamy side of her books. This one kind of not so much. She doesn't really write about that. Like, we know it happens, but it's not detailed. Every single book of hers is hilarious. Laugh out loud funny. I've read them all physically. I've never listened to them. I just saw Heather talk about it from Bookables, and she said that she's been listening to Sophie Kinsella's books. I've never done that before, so I wonder how that would change my perspective on her novels. On the same lines as Sophie Kinsella, this is my new favorite book of the year. This is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This one
was so good. I loved it so much.
It was funny. It had a love-hate relation. It's why it's called The Hating Game. Office shenanigans. These two are assistants to the CEOs of a publishing company, so it's about books. It's a book about books. These two publishing companies merged, kind of like Penguin Random House merged, and the CEOs have the top floor, and so the assistants are outside of the CEO's office, and they play these hating games because they can't stand each other, and it's so cute and it's so funny. The main protagonist, he's like an onion. You have to peel back the layers to get to the core of the onion. How about that analogy? If you like Sophie Kinsella, you will love this book. Last of my physical books, I have the Paper Princess series, which I've talked about in my favorite books 2016 video, and a lot of you have been reading them, and I'm so happy. Picked this up on a whim. This is young adult, however I think it's new adult. They have graphic scenes in them. There's a lot of violence too in this. These are like guilty pleasure reads, and you'll get through them really quickly. There's like a lot of drama. It's like a telenovela. Highly addictive. If you plan to read this series a night before a big test, don't. For some of my young adult readers, my youngies, don't read the ones that I told you to read, aside from Sophie Kinsella. She was okay. Here is A Lovely Reckless by Kemi Garcia. This is a young adult novel. It's about a cute guy, pretty girl, fast cars. It's on more of the angsty side. There's no detailed stuff in here. It's just kind of a sultry read. Another one for my young readers is London Belongs to Me by Jacqueline Middleton. I read this one in December. This one was a safe one. A really cute romance. It was a new adult novel because the character is out of college. It's all about the city, all about London. It's very drama. Although they do pit girls against each other. I've seen that so much before, and I would like to see something different where the female isn't a villain. Another one of my very favorite reads that I read, I don't know, years ago. It's the Dark House series by Karina Hale. This is a paranormal romance series. It is scary. I have never been so scared in my life reading a book. We follow like these ghost hunters. It's this guy and a girl. They are doing this YouTube show and they go into these haunted places and houses, campground, and it is freaky. On top of them going to these places alone, of course there's some kindling of a relationship, but he is not available. He has a girlfriend. It is angsty. If you have the heart and you have the will, I don't read them in the dark, but I really love them, and I actually would like to continue on with it. I think I read one, oh my gosh, I read 8 of them. I think some of them might have been like short stories. And last but not least, I can't help but not mention Colleen Hoover. I mean, I already did mention her. Colleen Hoover is another one of my favorite authors. I haven't read all of her novels yet. I've read 3. I read Ugly Love, November 9, and Maybe Someday. All those books I don't have anymore. I've given them off to people because I love them so much, and they never give them back. She's the author that I give to people who don't like reading. Usually I find out that they like 50 Shades of Grey and then I'm like, here's Ugly Love. This is better. But Colleen's books are super angsty. I've cried in a lot of them. Ugly Love is my favorite so far. Next to November 9. That one was really good, but I really liked Ugly Love. Currently, right now, I'm reading Wall of Winnipeg by Mariana Zapata. I got this recommendation from J Book Lover. It's also Amazon's #1 best-selling novel. It's a slow burn romance. I think I like slow burn romances the best. It's the payoff is just so worth it at the end. I hope you guys have a lovely Valentine's, Galentine's, or sad day. I hope it is filled with books and with love wherever that comes from. If you have any recommendations for me, I will gladly hear them and pick them up myself and read them, and maybe I'll be able to do an updated list like this for next year. I've been uploading videos every single Thursday, so you can always check for a new video on my channel on that day. Click that notification button if you are subscribed, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. I'll see you all in the future. Keep calm and fangirl on. Bye! Hi, what's up? Okay, so I just bought Paley Fest tickets.